biggest challenge is the time the groups spend working together. The literature says you'd like to have that be at least 40 hours. That's not practical for normal classrooms. But the essential element is that you need to have the people work together often.
If you have had a lecture-based class for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden you try to get them to work in groups, they're just not going to know what to do.
It's a part of class. It's not a special thing that happens. It's not a different thing that happens. It's an expectation. And what we found is when one doesn't happen, the students miss it. They wonder where it went.
The groups have to be big enough to tackle the problem at hand. For a really extensive long-term project, it needs to be more, up to maybe as no more than 7, but close to that. For the shorter term in-class kind of activities, working on worksheets, etc., 3 is probably best, maximum is probably 4. There are many factors that go into forming a group. The literature has lots of recommendations on this, but it really depends on your own situation, and you should not sacrifice the good to try and be perfect. It's generally good to have as broad a range of perspectives and skills within the group as you can, but if you're working on a much shorter term, smaller project, that becomes less important. One point that has continually emerged is it's good not to have a single minority of any type within a group. They can become isolated. Ideally, the teacher should create the groups because this is seen more fair to the students. And as a teacher, you ideally want to have a range of abilities within the group, but if the tasks are reasonably short-term, it works pretty well just to choose randomly. The biggest challenge is always conflict within the group, and you can help with that a lot by talking explicitly about how groups can work effectively and have the group members discuss that by themselves. One thing that's important is for the instructor to wander around the classroom and listen in on how the groups are working. This helps you give much more effective feedback on both the group dynamics and also helping the students learn the material.
It's an interesting phenomenon because we haven't been conditioned to do group work in our career, and that's a little tough. There's a little bit of pushback because some people just want to be lectured to and that's enough.
Students need to be motivated to work together. They need to see it as rewarding, and they need to have some level of accountability for both what they do as a group and for their work as individuals. And it's demotivating if you grade them on a curve, because then that's putting them in competition with the group members. There are other challenges like developing a sense of trust and willingness to disagree and how to comfortably resolve conflict. But these are all things that come with practice as a group works together.
I've been with my table throughout the whole year. So we've grown to know each other and really get to interact with each other every class period. So we're really close, for one. And we also understand each other's strengths. And I think that's really nice to get everybody's opinions and know who's better at a certain topic than other people.
Many more members of the group become comfortable talking to each other after about 25 hours, some research shows. The kinds of group activities one gives them also can help a lot in promoting the effective group work.
So in constructing the group activities, I think that one of the most important things to do is to make sure, first of all, that you've selected something that actually is really important for that class period. So you want it to be you want the activity to be about something that you really want the students to remember. And it has to be something they can sink their teeth into. It can't be too easy.
One thing that makes this work the way it's worked for us right now this semester, and a key aspect of these activities, are the types of questions.
If you have an activity that's just as simple as, write down a few terms on a piece of paper to define some things. I mean, what benefit are you going to get from that? When you're actually in class with, other colleagues and the professors and TAs and everyone else there to help you out, you can really start to address some of the more difficult issues rather than just the simplistic ones. And I think that's what really makes group work exceptionally helpful.
I found the first year I taught it, some of them sort of worked and some of them were kind of duds, and I had to rethink, the ones that didn't seem to work. If I had an activity that was maybe too quantitative, I would just see students plugging numbers into their calculators as opposed to sort of thinking about how to set up problems. I would then in the second year go back and redesign them.
Similarly, students have to find the task interesting and relevant.
First off, it was an interesting topic, so that just really helps with everybody getting involved.
For me, I want to think about new ways of approaching problems and thinking about experiments, not necessarily just rehashing material.
When you're assessing group work, first you can't grade on a curve. And you also then want to have some level of assessing the output of the group. For example, grading something that they turn in as a group, or having them report out to the rest of the class on their activities.
Or one of the eyes and all the pathways from that die off.
But second, you really want to have individual accountability as well. So either the students have to turn in some work individually, or you have some exam questions that directly reflect on the activities of the group. And this individual accountability really helps deal with the problem of one person just loafing and letting the others do all the work.
I need to be completely present in class, and so just by being a passive learner, I don't retain as much.
And just having that personal interaction with my peers and being able to revert back to those conversations that we had just really helped my understanding, so that when I saw it on the test, it just came back to me.
A lot of us don't learn the exact same way, so for me to explain it in multiple different aspects in multiple different ways, it really helps solidify the concept in my mind, as well as enable my peers to learn.
The best students, they might be spending a lot of their time teaching to the students who are struggling, but everybody wins from that, because the best students learn from teaching it, and the students who are struggling are getting a much more individualized instruction at the level they can understand than what the instructor can provide.
The first thing I think I would say is just to go ahead and try it, because it can't hurt.
It's very fun to see the students kind of relying on each other and themselves to get the information, as opposed to always thinking that I'm the source of all knowledge, which I definitely don't want to be. I want them to be creating it for themselves.
So I think it really comes down to, I'm going to sacrifice 10-15 minutes out of my week of lecture where I could be telling them about one more experiment, versus I'm going to give them one group work, 1-2 pieces of sheets of paper, and they're really going to know what I'm talking about.
I mean, I think it's completely changed my classroom.
What's really beneficial about these group activities and peer discussion opportunities in class is to get a chance to approach those kind of problems in a similar manner that a scientific professional would get to do in the field. So in a way, it really prepares students for careers in their discipline of choice, be it biology or physics or whatnot. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction.